And we are live. So, hi everyone. I'm Pauline from Syos, and I'm with Michael Wilbur. Michael, thank you so much for being here. I'm really glad to have you. So, what we are going to do tonight is just, or today for you, I will just ask you a few questions for people, and then you have a small workshop planned on the sound production technique and practice habits. So it will last for like half an hour. And please, people who follow us, you can ask all your questions right on YouTube or on Facebook. And we will answer all the questions after the workshop. So yeah, thank you again for being here. I'm really glad, and I just wanted to know how are you, and how is it going for you with all the crises, with the COVID crisis around the world? How you are you managing to do, and what's your plans? Like, do you have some projects right now, or is it all stopped due to the crisis?
Well, we just did a live stream with Too Many Zoos in my garage, actually, just outside. And
nice.
It was really good. It felt great to get the bands back together after 4 months. Our last gig was in Toulouse, France, and it was very sad. We had played 2 gigs and then flew home. Mm-hmm. And then it felt like our career was over. It was like, all right, that's it. Everybody, music is done. So that was sad and upsetting. But now we're starting to do some drive-in movie theater gigs. So nice. People are socially distanced in their cars. You stay in your car and you drive. And we're playing where the movie will be playing. So that's going to be cool. We're doing our first one next week. But I'm very good at staying busy and being alone and spending time by myself. You know, I love to practice. I love to produce and exercise and all those things. So personally, it hasn't been very bad for me, but I definitely miss the touring part of my life.
Yes, I can imagine. It's it's really sad for everyone, and we hope that it's going to be better in a few months. I hope so. But it's nice to have some projects and doing some streamings online, and it's a nice idea of the driving for music. Where is it happening? What are the cities?
Well, the first one we're doing is in Greenfield, Massachusetts, which is in western Massachusetts. It's like 2 hours west of Boston. And it's a nice, quiet area. There's a lot of mountains. So because it's not going to be a tour, I'm going to go out there. We'll play the drive-in show, and then I'll go hiking or something. There are pluses to this new situation, for sure.
Yeah.
More time.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah, thank you. So right now you're with your baritone saxophone, and I just wanted you to talk me a little bit about your new signature model, because people know the tenor mouthpiece, but the baritone mouthpiece is quite new. So tell me a little bit about it. Do you like it? How is it?
I love it. It's the best bari mouthpiece I've ever played. I have a lot of other baritone mouthpieces, and this thing just basically, I couldn't play altissimo before on bari. I mean, it's not my primary instrument. You know, I'm mainly a tenor player, but since I got this mouthpiece, I've been playing baritone way more in the band and just in general because it's so easy to play. I'm using a pretty soft reed on it. I think it's a Rico 3. But that's just a random reed. I mean, it sounds good with every reed I've tried it with. And before I was very picky with reeds, and I don't feel like I have to be so picky anymore, which is nice. Except I'm playing on this old Con. It's a low A Con Berry. It's pretty beat up, so it's kind of hard to play. I have like cigarette paper around the cork to keep the mouthpiece on, but it still plays great thanks to the mouthpiece, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, can we hear it?
Yeah, you want to hear it? All right. Yeah, it's great. It's a great piece. You know, I think I probably need a little harder read on it right now, but it's still like I would play a show with it. You know. Yeah, so that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job on the mouthpiece, by the way.
Yeah, a good job on playing it. Yeah, so just a small advertisement. We have some sales actually on the mouthpiece. So if you want the berry mouthpiece, you can get it for 20% off. It's until the 30th, so you have still a few more days to get it. And yeah, now I let you do your workshop. I will remove me from the screen and I let you talk.
All right, thank you, Pauline.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, this horn is a lot nicer than that one. Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Wilbur, and I'm here to talk about sound production and practice techniques. So over the years, I've done a lot of work with sound production. I would say it's one of my stronger suits as a player. I studied with Tony Malaby for some time, and he gave me a really great exercise that I took to heart and put a lot of time into. And I'll show you that exercise now. So I like to think of the sound on the saxophone as if it's a piano string, and the air that you're blowing into it is the hammer on a piano, right? So when you put the air into the horn, the sound happens. There's no hesitation beforehand. You don't need to use your tongue necessarily. And how I like to do this is to break the horn into two halves. So the first half is B flat to open C sharp. Second half is D to F. Right? So that's kind of the playable range before you get into altissimo. And you're dividing it into two minor tenths. So let's start with the first minor tenth. And what we'll do is focus on playing the low B flat. And this is quite difficult, even for seasoned players. So to play the low B flat with just an air attack. And it's not even so much an attack. It's more like I said before, like you hitting the key on the piano and the sound happens. So and the goal is to get these two notes to be of the same volume and to use no tongue attack. Then you move each note chromatically toward one another. So the low B flat goes to a B, and the middle C sharp goes down to a C. So now you have the interval of a minor ninth. Repeat each one of these intervals as many times as you want. It's quite meditative. Really hone in and focus on the sound you're producing and the volume you're using, the amount of air you're using, and try and get both notes at the same volume. So you don't want the low B to be whoa and the middle C to be. So try and get them to sound like they're in the same realm. Right? Some variations to this by just moving chromatically down once you complete the interval. Sticky G sharp. Summertime, sticky G sharp season. Okay, so that's the bottom half. And then you unfold that. Again, no tongue attack and no vibrato either. So this is kind of working towards a pure tone type of thing. and it's a constant work in progress. It's difficult to get these out clean. Still for me, even sometimes if I'm not warmed up. So it's a really good warm up because it kind of just wakes your embouchure up and the inside of your mouth to not only play these intervals but play them in tune and to start hearing larger intervals. So you do the same thing with the top of the horn. Right? And do each interval longer than I'm doing it now. This is just to demonstrate. You know, it's more of a long tone exercise. It can be fast. You can improvise with it, but the goal of evenness, intonation, breath attack, accuracy remains the same. So. And then unfold it. Okay. So now combine the two halves, which makes very interesting chords as well. It's a great warm-up. It's definitely different. You know, you start to hear these intervals more and can start adding them into your playing as well. If you do this every day, which I did for many years, you start hearing larger intervals and intervals like minor ninths and things like this. So the next thing I like to practice for sound production are multiphonics. You know, I have a few favorite multiphonics, and a great exercise with a multiphonic is to pick out each note that's happening in the multiphonic, because a multiphonic is obviously multiple sounds happening at one time. The movement between two notes very quickly, right? So, for example, this one. Within that, you can pick out each harmonic. This one. So those are the three notes happening there. And depending on how much control you have, you can choose which tone to bring out. And maybe you don't like the sound of multiphonics, they're too weird, but this has great benefit in just overall sound quality improvement, because you're forcing your ear to be able to make certain harmonics stronger. So then each note you play has harmonics. And if you have the ability to control those harmonics and bring forth some stronger than others, then you'll have some interesting options and an interesting sound. So pick out different multiphonics. There's a great book by Jim Gross, I think his name is, called 141 Multiphonics. And you can just open that book up and pick a multiphonic and then do exactly this exercise, just pinpointing harmonics within the multiphonic. Another thing for sound production is obviously long tones and overtones. A great exercise that I try to do every day is I'll put on a drone and I'll just play, I'll pick a key and I'll pick a scale and I'll play that scale in long notes. I'll put on a metronome generally and practice, 2 bars each note of the scale, full range of my instrument. So all the way up through my altissimo and then back down, which generally takes about 15 to 20 minutes, and it burns. It's like doing a plank or like sit-ups or something. It's a workout, but probably one of the best ways to strengthen your embouchure. Just long tones to a drone so that you can check your pitch. And I like to practice to drones for sound production and for intonation, because you're forced to hear where you're at intonation-wise, and you're not relying on an electronic gadget doing this. You hear the beating frequency against the drone, right? So if your major third is not right in the cut of a major third, you hear it. So especially if you're wearing headphones with a drone, that gets trippy. So okay, long tones, overtones. Great book, if you're not familiar with it, is called Top Tones for the Saxophone by Sigurd Rascher. Very, very crucial book in terms of sound production, altissimo development, all these things. And really, page 12 of that book is where the goodies start happening, because he has all these overtone exercises that are just based on pedal tones, basically. So you're holding down, a low B flat, but you're moving the intervals throughout it. So a very simple one, obviously, is just up and down. And then skipping steps. So you do that with every one of your low notes, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D. The higher you go, the harder it is to keep the overtones in tune, right? It's easiest to keep the low B flat ones in tune, but really valuable. People ask me a lot, how do you get your altissimo to where you've gotten it? And this is it, really. Just shed your overtones and treat them like long tones. So when you're doing overtones and you're just beginning, right, the first step is getting that octave to sing. So right? There's, a lot of the time it'll sound like this if you're just starting out. You know, the higher overtone will be popping out, or the lower, the fundamental will be coming through, and it'll be like this kind of cool sounding power chord kind of thing. So yeah, overtones. Focus on your overtones. They'll make you better. They'll make you stronger. When you're doing it, treat each overtone as if it were the fingered note. And sometimes you have to actually finger the note to hear what that would sound like. So, for example, in the octave. Playing all the B flat fingerings and then the low, right? So then F and B flat, and fingering F and then going back to the fundamental fingering, but sounding F, if that makes sense. Hope I'm not being confusing here. So this is how I get these kind of sounds, you know, through this kind of practice. Kind of a thing. It's all overtone practice. You know, it's tedious. You have to sit with it for a long time, years and years and years, to be able to go, and other things. You know, obviously, if you hate that kind of screeching saxophone sound, overtones are great for making really beautiful sounds as well, and improving your nice sounding tone. G sharp sticky, that it killed my smooth vibe. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to talk about. So if we're talking about flexibility, tone development, strengthening the embouchure, your inner voice, you know, the voicing inside your mouth, the shape of it changes. And a great exercise for that is finger a high F, and we're going to try and walk down the chromatic scale as far as we can using that high F. So at first, just finger the notes chromatically, descending chromatically. Okay. And now we're going to do that without changing any fingerings. are going to hate this. All right, now you do the same thing starting on E. All right, and this is akin to the lip slur on a brass instrument. It develops flexibility. Also, practice it like. So these are some techniques that I practiced over the years. Some techniques that I probably need to revisit because, you know, life goes on. Things that you once practiced get put on the back burner, and things that you're now interested in get put in the front. But I hope this was informative for you all, and maybe you could put some of these in the front burners and improve your sound development. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is practice techniques. To me, it's very important that I get at least an hour a day in. Still, I've been playing 22 years now, and if I don't get an hour in at least, I feel like I'm messing up, right? So the saxophone is kind of an unforgiving instrument, in my opinion. Some people think that, you know, you can just take time off and it's like not a big deal, but I don't feel that way. If I don't play for a day, I feel like crap. So it's important that I get a little bit of everything, a little bit of finger exercise, a little bit of theory exercise. So I like to compartmentalize my practice routines into different segments. And how I'll do that is I'll take a timer. Well, first I make a game plan. So I'll say, okay, 20 minutes, I'm going to work on tone development. And half of that will be overtones, half of that will be long tones, something like that. And then I'll say, okay, the next 20 minutes, I'll do scale patterns and scale and interval patterns, right? And then I'll write out exactly what I'm going to practice. And I always practice things at a tempo that I can execute comfortably, because to me it's much more important that I'm practicing my studies at a level that I can execute them and integrate them. If I'm practicing them too quickly and I'm fumbling through them, I'm like, oh, I only have a few minutes left on this, I'm not really learning much from it. But if I'm practicing something difficult at a slow tempo and I'm executing it perfectly, then I integrate that more into my playing and more into my hands. So that's a really important thing to do. I write down my metronome markings of, you know, where I'm at with an exercise, and I keep a log of it. So keep a game plan. And yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I have to say about tone development and practice. You know, just practice minimum an hour a day if you're trying to. To me, an hour is like maintenance time, right? It's like I'm not going to get worse playing an hour a day, but I'm not necessarily going to excel forward. So I always try and get more than that in. But you know, if you're serious about developing your saxophone skills and taking it to the next level, there's no substitute for hard work. So thank you all so much for joining us. I think we're going to go to questions now. See what we got.
Yes, I have some questions for you. I have a question from Matty Harris, who is speaking about what kind of neck straps do you
This
have?
This is a Boston sax shop neck strap. It's pretty cool. It has this bar. You know, I think it does take some tension off of this part of the neck, which is nice because it has this bar across it here. So, and it looks cool. I like it.
Okay. I have another question. I think it's more for me. From Osmosis, he said that he loves his Syos tenor mouthpiece, but the barrel is really big, so there aren't many ligatures that fit. So maybe you can add some comments, because on the tenor it's like a regular size usually. So I think a lot of ligatures can fit on the tenor side, on the Syos tenor. What ligature do you use, Michael?
Is even called. Robner, I think. I think there's a Rob. But
okay.
You know,
yeah.
we spoke about this before. Like ligatures, they're not so important to me. Just like if you can't find a ligature, wrap a rubber band around it. It's just, the only reason ligatures exist is to keep the reed on the mouthpiece securely, right? There's a really good video if you're interested in exploring ligature science. There's a really good video by this clarinetist on YouTube who goes through like 10 different ligatures, from a $600 gold-plated one, like supposedly the best one, to like paper clips and bread ties. Sounds exactly the same on all of them. So what I really think it matters the most is the shape of the inside of the mouthpiece and the shape of the horn. You know, those two things, as long as there's a secure connection, it's a good reed, ligature is not so important. So don't stress out about ligatures.
Yeah, and otherwise you still have the Syos ligature that is included with the mouthpiece,
right, exactly.
and it works also.
Yep.
So we have a question from Raphael. He asked, was it always your intent to modernize the saxophone sound, or did it just happen as you went along?
That's a good question. I was never satisfied with, you know, so growing up, I was in concert band, I was in jazz band, and I was never really satisfied with the music that I was playing. It didn't feel like it spoke to me, really. And I've always, for me, the saxophone has always been an outlet for my personal expression, you know, for not only expressing who I am as a human, but expressing something deeper. And as I got more into meditation and exploring sound in general, I kind of left behind all, I left behind any desire to sound like other people, really. You know, there was a whole stage before Moon Hooch happened where I was playing mostly free and trying to like play things that I hadn't heard people play. I was going to the new school, and most of the players there, you know, all very, very gifted, talented musicians, but it was very bebop based and very jazz, like traditional jazz oriented, which I've learned a lot from, I appreciate and respect deeply, but didn't feel like me necessarily in its entirety. I felt like I could learn something from it, but I couldn't necessarily, didn't feel like my own. So, you know, I started playing on the streets and playing with different musicians who felt similarly to me. And then I met Wenzel and James, and we started playing on the streets together. And it was house music. It was electronic dance music that we were playing. So that was totally new for me. You know, I was kind of like, trad jazz, I want to play free jazz, you know. And then Wenzel was was actually like, I don't want to play jazz at all. I just want to play EDM music. and I was like, whoa, okay. So then I kind of brought my style into that, and the merging of those two things created Moon Hooch and the player that I am today. So.
Okay, nice. I have another question from Lee. He's asking, any tips to practice if you don't have your horn with you?
Oh, yes. There's so many things you can do. A lot of the things I give my students are things to practice off the saxophone. So obviously all the things that I was talking about earlier, the sound production stuff, you need the horn because it's very horn oriented. But regarding theory, improvisation, chord structures, chord recognition, these things can all be done off the horn. And especially when I was first learning and familiarizing myself with chords, I would do a lot of practice moving through chord changes in my head. So I say, okay, giant steps, for example, and I'll just think of each chord, right? And then I'll use my hands to even arpeggiate the chords, because all the fingerings of so you really don't need the horn to finger the fingerings. So those kind of things, but also just buy some manuscript paper. I love these little moleskin manuscript books. And you can, write out changes and then write solos over them. You don't need to hear what the solo is necessarily. Instead, use the concepts you've learned to construct solos. So for example, say, okay, I'm going to write a solo over giant steps, using only 1, 2, 3, 5s and voice leading. So 1, 2, 3, 5s, moving through giant steps, voice leading, write it out. And you can do as many courses with that as you want. So these are all great things to practice. And then when you get back to your horn, you will notice a big difference. You can write out patterns, write out scales. And not only is it good practice, but then you can go back to these things and practice them like etudes or something. Like you're essentially writing your own method book when you're doing this. So.
Okay, nice. I think we don't have more questions. Do you want to play a tune before we finished?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'll just improvise something for you all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a beautiful night.
We actually have 2 more questions.
Oh,
if you
yeah,
want.
questions.
Yeah. So we have a question from Giuseppe. He said, what brand is your tenor? Yeah, you say that it was a brand new tenor, actually.
It's a Yamaha YTS 82Z.
Okay, and he also asked, what reeds do you use?
These are Boston Sack Shop 3.5s.
Mm-hmm. And we have a nice question from Sean. He said that his band is playing with you this Friday. And how do you feel about the new driving concert format?
I feel pretty good considering I haven't played a show in 4 months. And, it's tough. It's like, this is our career. I think a lot of people don't really realize that a lot of bands exist from touring. Like, they need to tour. So, I'm psyched. I need to get back to work. The government still wants their money from me, so I gotta make that paper.
Yeah. Okay, we have a nice last one. Pedro, who said, do you have an air tank attached to your back?
Yeah, well, they're got an air tank right here.
Okay, so thank you very much for this nice live with us, and I hope we can make it again soon. And have a good day, and see you soon.
Thank you, Pauline. Thanks for making great.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Right.
Bye-bye.